The battle at Kepler's Edge became a legend in less than a day. Automated sensors recorded everything and transmitted the data across the galaxy. Within hours, every species in Council space knew that humans had defeated the Gentar in open combat. Most could not believe it. The recordings had to be false, they said. No one fought the Gentar and won. But the data was verified by 3 independent monitoring stations. It was real. Commander Day stood in the cargo bay of the Indomitable looking at the aftermath of the battle. Engineers were repairing damaged hull plates. Medics were treating wounded crew members. The ship had taken significant damage, but it was still fully operational. That was the difference between human ships and alien ships. When most species designed vessels, they prioritized comfort and efficiency. They wanted smooth rides and pleasant environments. Their ships were homes in space. Humans built weapons. The Indomitable had minimal crew quarters, basic food systems, and no recreational facilities. Every cubic meter was dedicated to armor, weapons, or engines. The ship was uncomfortable, cramped, and ugly, but it could take an enormous amount of damage and keep fighting. Captain Tay walked up to Day, limping slightly from a bruised leg. "Commander, the repair crews estimate we will be at full combat readiness in 6 hours. The other ships report similar status. Casualties? 17 wounded, none serious. The Predator lost 3 crew members when a missile breached their secondary hull." Day nodded slowly. 3 deaths. It was a small number compared to the hundreds of Gentar who died. But each loss hurt. Every human who went into space knew the risks, but that did not make their deaths easier to accept. "Make sure their families are notified," Day said. "And prepare a memorial service." "Yes, sir." Day walked through the ship, inspecting the damage personally. He passed crew members who saluted as he went by. They looked tired but satisfied. They had fought against impossible odds and won. That kind of victory built confidence. He found Chief Engineer Hana in the main engineering bay, surrounded by holographic displays and diagnostic equipment. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were bright with excitement. "Commander," Hana said when she saw him, "I have been analyzing the battle data. I think I understand why we won so decisively." "Tell me," Hana pulled up a tactical display. "The Gentar ships are designed like most Council vessels. They have powerful shields, long-range weapons, and fast engines. But their hulls are weak. They rely entirely on shields for protection. And our ships? We use layered defense. Shields, armor, and internal bulkheads. Even when their weapons penetrated our shields, they had to get through meters of steel and ceramic armor. Their energy weapons were not designed for that." Day understood. Human ships were built based on Earth's naval history. On Earth's oceans, ships had thick armor because once weapons got through, the ship was doomed. Humans had learned that lesson through centuries of naval warfare. "There is something else," Hana continued. "I reviewed their weapons fire. They were not aiming for critical systems. They were shooting randomly, trying to overwhelm us with volume of fire. They do not understand focused targeting," Day said. "Exactly. They have never needed to. Most species panic when under heavy fire. They retreat or surrender. The Gentar just needed to look dangerous." Day felt a cold satisfaction. The Gentar had never fought a real war. They were raiders and bullies. But humans had studied warfare for thousands of years. They knew how to find weaknesses and exploit them. "What do we call it?" Hana asked. "Call what?" "Our way of fighting. The Council species all have names for their military doctrines. The Valanthi use harmony formations. The Kresh use defensive superiority. What do we call ours?" Dee thought about it. Human tactics were based on aggression, adaptation, and relentless pressure. They fought like predators, patient when necessary, explosive when opportunity appeared, and always willing to take risks that others would not. "The Predator Doctrine," Day said finally. "We hunt, we adapt. We never stop coming," Hana smiled. "I like it." Across the galaxy, Admiral Kale received the battle recordings from Kepler's Edge. He watched them 3 times, analyzing every detail. What he saw made his blood run cold. The humans had not just won. They had dominated. 8 ships against 40, and they had made it look easy. Kale called his senior officers to the command center. They gathered around the holographic display as he played the recordings again. "Observations?" Kale asked. His tactical officer spoke first. "Their ships are heavily armored. More armor than any vessel I have seen. It makes them slower, but much harder to destroy. Their maneuvering is aggressive," another officer added. They deliberately put themselves in danger to get close to enemy ships. Most species try to fight at long range. "Look at this," Kale said, pausing the recording. It showed the moment when Captain Wu's destroyer performed what humans called an orbital drop maneuver. The ship had used a nearby moon's gravity to accelerate to incredible speeds, then attacked the Gentar flagship from an unexpected angle. The G-forces from that maneuver should have killed the crew, Kale's medical officer said. "I calculate at least 12 Gs during the gravity assist. No species should be able to survive that. But the humans did," Kale said quietly. "Because they evolved under higher gravity, their bodies are naturally resistant to acceleration stress." He played another section. This showed the human ships performing coordinated attacks. 3 vessels would engage a target from different angles, while the others provided covering fire. When one ship needed to retreat for repairs, another immediately took its place. "Pack tactics," Kale said. "They hunt like predators on their world. Multiple attackers, coordinated strikes, no escape for the prey." His officers looked uncomfortable. They were beginning to understand what Kale already knew. Humans were not just another species. They were something the galaxy had never encountered before. Predators who had learned to work together. "What do we do, Admiral?" his second-in-command asked. Kale was silent for a long moment. His fleet of 50 ships was ready to depart. But after seeing what 8 human ships could do, he was no longer certain 50 would be enough. "We proceed as planned," Kale said finally. "But we will approach carefully. No aggressive maneuvers, no threats. We will attempt diplomatic contact first. And if they refuse, then we will show them that the Council did not maintain peace for thousands of years by being weak." But even as he said it, Kale felt doubt. The Council had maintained peace because no one challenged them. Every species that joined did so willingly or after a brief show of force. The Council had never faced an enemy that wanted to fight. Meanwhile, Commander Day was preparing for exactly that scenario. He knew the Council would not ignore what happened at Kepler's Edge. They would send ships. Probably many ships. He called his captains together for a conference. Their faces appeared on screens around the bridge. Captain Tay, Captain Wu, and the commanders of the other 6 vessels. "The Council knows about us now," Day said. "They will come. We need to decide what we do when they arrive." "We could run," Captain Wu suggested. "Take the fleet to the outer rim. Hide in the frontier sectors where they cannot find us." "Running means abandoning Earth," Tay pointed out. "The Council could blockade our homeworld." "Then we fight," another captain said. "We proved at Kepler's Edge that we can win against superior numbers." Day shook his head. "The Gentar were raiders, not soldiers. The Council defense fleet is professional and experienced. They will not make the same mistakes." "So what do you propose, Commander?" Tay asked. Day pulled up a star chart. "We have 2 weeks before the Council fleet arrives, according to our intelligence. We use that time to prepare, not just our ships, but Earth itself." "You think they will attack our home?" Wu asked, shocked. "I think they are scared," Day replied. "And scared people do stupid things. We need to be ready for anything." He began outlining his plan. The fleet would return to Earth, but not to hide. They would prepare defenses. They would convert civilian ships into military vessels. They would turn every orbital station into a weapons platform. "The Council thinks we have 8 warships," Day explained. "We will show them that every human ship is a warship if it needs to be. Every station is a fortress. Every person is a soldier. Total mobilization," Tay said, understanding. "Like the old wars on Earth, exactly. If the Council wants a fight, we will give them one they never forget." The captains agreed to the plan. The human fleet set course for Earth, moving at maximum speed. They had 2 weeks to prepare for the biggest battle in human history. On Earth, the government received Day's message and immediately declared a state of emergency. Every spaceship was called back to orbit. Engineers worked around the clock to install weapons on civilian vessels. Mining ships became missile platforms. Transport ships became troop carriers. The orbital stations that usually handled trade and research were converted into defensive fortresses. Their solar panels were replaced with shield generators. Their docking bays were filled with ammunition and supplies. Every human on Earth watched the preparations with a mixture of fear and determination. They knew the Council was coming. They knew the odds were against them, but humans had faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, natural disasters. The chamber of the Galactic Council glowed with soft blue light. Hundreds of alien delegates floated in their seats. their bodies supported by gravity fields. Ambassador Thelamora stood at the center platform, her 6 arms spreading wide as she called the emergency meeting to order. "Members of the Council," she began, her voice translating through devices into 1,000 different languages. "We face a situation that requires immediate attention. The species from Sol 3 has achieved faster than light travel." A wave of surprise sounds filled the chamber. Species from across the galaxy turned to each other, confused and worried. Sol 3 was supposed to be quarantined. The planet was classified as forbidden territory. Counselor Vexara, a being made of crystalline structures, spoke up. "That is impossible. Our last report said they were still fighting among themselves. They barely had basic spaceflight. How could they achieve FTL capability so quickly?" Thelmora pulled up a holographic display. Images of strange vessels appeared in the air above them. The ships looked brutal and ugly compared to the elegant curves of Council designs. They were made of thick metal plates and angular surfaces. Weapons covered every side. "These images were captured by our monitoring stations 2 cycles ago," Thelmora explained. "The humans built a fleet, not just exploration vessels. These are warships." Admiral Kale stepped forward from the military section. He was a tall being with purple skin and 4 eyes. His uniform displayed dozens of medals from centuries of service. "I have reviewed the data personally. The human vessels are primitive in design, but they are functional. More concerning is the speed of their development. They went from basic rockets to FTL drives in less than 200 cycles. That is unprecedented." Another council member raised a tentacle. "Perhaps we should remind ourselves why Sol 3 was classified as forbidden. What kind of world produced these humans?" The display changed. Now it showed Earth spinning in space. Beautiful blues and greens covered its surface. White clouds swirled over continents. It looked peaceful. "Do not be fooled by its appearance," Admiral Kale said, his voice dark. "Sol 3 is a class Luthien deathworld. Only 7 such planets exist in known space. The gravity is crushing. The atmosphere is filled with a highly reactive gas they call oxygen. The weather systems generate storms that could destroy our cities. Earthquakes tear the land apart. Volcanoes fill the sky with ash. The oceans contain enough salt to poison most species." He pulled up another image. This showed the creatures that lived on Earth. Massive beasts with teeth and claws, tiny insects that carried deadly diseases, plants that could kill with poison. Even the smallest creatures were armed with venom or armor. "The humans evolved alongside all of this," Kale continued. "They are apex predators. They have forward-facing eyes for tracking prey. They have endurance that lets them chase animals until they collapse from exhaustion. Their bodies can heal from terrible injuries. They can survive in almost any climate on their world." "But surely," another counselor interrupted, "they are peaceful now? They have formed a united government?" Thelamora's expression darkened. "They have a united government for space exploration, yes. But their history is written in blood. In the last 1,000 cycles alone, they fought 2 massive wars that killed hundreds of millions of their own kind. They created weapons that could destroy their entire planet. They poisoned their own air and water in the name of industry. They are violent, short-lived, and unpredictable." The chamber fell silent. Every being present understood what this meant. A species of Deathworld predators now had the ability to travel between stars. They could reach Council space. They could reach peaceful worlds that had never known war. "What do you propose?" Vexara asked. Admiral Kale stepped back to the center. "I will lead a fleet to Sol 3. We will make contact. We will explain the rules of galactic society. If they refuse to accept our terms, we will enforce a complete blockade. They will not be allowed to leave their system." "And if they resist?" someone asked. Kale's 4 eyes narrowed. "They have 8 primitive warships. I will bring 50 vessels of the Council Defense Fleet. The humans will understand that resistance is futile. They may be predators on their world, but in space they are children facing adults." The vote was called. The holographic display showed the results instantly. 473 in favor, 27 against. The decision was made. Thelmora nodded. "Admiral Kale, you have the authority of this council. Make contact with the humans. Bring them into compliance. Use whatever force is necessary." Kale saluted and left the chamber. His officers followed him, already planning the mission. They would gather the fleet at Nexus Prime Station. They would travel to Sol 3. They would show these Deathworlders that the galaxy had rules, and those rules would be followed. As the chamber began to empty, one counselor remained in his seat. He was old, even by the standards of long-lived species. His name was Torvan, and he had studied military history for 300 years. He looked at the images of human ships one more time. Something bothered him. The designs were inefficient, yes. They were crude compared to Council technology. But they were not stupid. Every weapon was placed for maximum coverage. Every plate of armor was angled to deflect impacts. These ships were built by beings who understood war. Torvan pulled up files that most counselors had ignored. Human entertainment, human stories, human games, all of them focused on conflict, on strategy, on overcoming impossible odds. The humans did not just study war as an unfortunate necessity. They were fascinated by it. They practiced it in their spare time. He found a human saying in the database. It was translated awkwardly, but the meaning was clear. If you want peace, prepare for war. The humans had prepared. For thousands of years they had fought and learned and adapted. They had turned their violent nature into an art form. Every human child played games of strategy. Every human story celebrated heroes who refused to surrender. Their entire culture was built on the idea that determination and courage could overcome any enemy. Torvan closed the files and left the chamber. He did not share Kale's confidence. The Admiral thought he was dealing with primitive beings who would be easily intimidated. But Torvan had studied enough military history to know a dangerous truth. The most dangerous predator was not the strongest or the fastest. It was the one that never stopped hunting. The one that learned from every encounter. The one that turned every defeat into a lesson for victory. He hoped Admiral Kale was right. He hoped the humans would see the Council fleet and surrender peacefully. But something told him that beings who evolved on a death world, who survived extinction events and ice ages and their own weapons of mass destruction, would not be easily frightened. 3 days later, Admiral Kale's fleet arrived at the border of Sol system. Their scanners swept the space around Earth, searching for the human vessels. They found nothing. The 8 human warships were gone. They had left Earth's orbit and disappeared into deep space. Admiral Kale ordered his fleet to enter the system. They would wait at Earth and demand the humans return for negotiations. It was a sound strategy. The humans would have to come home eventually. What Kale did not know was that the humans had received warning of the Council's plans. A sympathetic alien trader had sent a message to Earth 3 weeks earlier. The humans had time to prepare, and Commander Day, leader of Earth's first deep space fleet, had no intention of letting the Council dictate terms. The humans were not coming home to negotiate. They were already out there in the dark, watching and learning and preparing for what came next. Maybe the humans were more dangerous than he had thought, but it was too late to change plans. Admiral Kale could not sleep. He stood in his private office aboard the flagship, surrounded by holographic displays showing everything the Council knew about humans. The more he read, the more disturbed he became. He had started with the basic files: human biology, human history, human technology. But those files had been sanitized by previous Council administrators. They focused on facts and numbers, making humans seem like just another primitive species waiting to join galactic civilization. But Kale had access to classified archives that most counselors never saw. Files that observers had compiled over the past 50 years, files that showed the truth about Deathworld predators. He pulled up a video recording. It showed human children playing in something called a park. They were running and chasing each other, laughing and screaming. At first it looked innocent. Then Kale realized what they were doing. They were practicing hunting. One child would run while others chased. When they caught the runner, they would wrestle and fight until someone gave up. Then they would start again. The children called it tag and play fighting, but Kale recognized it for what it was: training for combat. He pulled up another file. This one showed human entertainment. Stories and movies that humans watched for fun. Almost all of them involved conflict. Heroes fighting villains, soldiers fighting wars, survivors fighting monsters. Even their peaceful stories had underlying tension. Romance stories included competing for mates. Mystery stories involved hunting for clues. Sports were just ritualized combat. Kale found a human saying in the database, "All is fair in love and war." The humans saw no difference between the two. Both were forms of competition. Both required strategy and determination. He moved to the next file. Human music. Kale played a recording called a war song. The sound was aggressive and rhythmic, designed to synchronize heartbeats and create group unity. Humans sang these songs before battles to prepare mentally for violence, but they also sang them at sporting events, at celebrations. At gatherings with friends, Kyle turned off the music and sat down. He was beginning to understand something terrible. Violence was not something humans did. It was something they were. It was built into every part of their culture, their biology, their psychology. He pulled up the military history files. They made him feel sick. Humans had been fighting organized wars for at least 10,000 years. They had developed formations and tactics when most species were still living in caves. They had created standing armies, military academies, strategic doctrine. They had written books about war. Sun Tzu's Art of War was over 2,000 years old. A human named Clausewitz had analyzed warfare so thoroughly that his work was still studied. The humans treated war as a science, something to be understood and perfected. But what truly frightened Kale was how humans fought. He watched recordings of their historical battles. They did not just fight to win territory or resources. They fought with total commitment. They sacrificed themselves for their comrades. They refused to surrender even when defeat was certain. At a place called Thermopylae, 300 soldiers held off an army of thousands for 3 days. They fought until every one of them was dead. They did this to buy time for their people to escape. At a place called Stalingrad, 2 armies fought over a single city for months. The battle killed over 1 million people. The city was destroyed, but neither side would retreat. The humans had a word for this: tenacity. They celebrated it in their stories and songs. The ability to keep fighting no matter what, to never give up, never surrender, never stop. Kale found another human saying, "It is not the size of the dog in the fight, but the size of the fight in the dog." He turned off the displays and walked to the window. His fleet was assembling outside, 50 warships ready to enforce the Council's will. The ships were beautiful, elegant designs that had maintained peace for thousands of years. But Kale was no longer confident they would be enough. Across the galaxy, Commander Day stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, studying his own displays. Intelligence Officer Gina had been working non-stop for 3 days, analyzing every transmission they could intercept. "Commander," Gina said, "I have finished the analysis of hostile forces in this sector. The Gentar control 7 systems and have been raiding Council space for over 30 years. 30 years? Captain Tay asked, surprised. The Council has not stopped them? Gina shook her head. The Gentar use hit-and-run tactics. They attack weak targets, steal what they can, and retreat before Council forces arrive. When the Council does send warships, the Gentar hide in asteroid fields and nebulae. Day nodded slowly. Guerrilla warfare. They are using the same tactics humans used for thousands of years. Yes, sir. But there is something interesting in their communication patterns. Gina pulled up a translation. They talk about teaching lessons and showing strength. They do not fight to destroy enemies. They fight to intimidate them. Bullies, Lieutenant Hewen said from the weapons station. They are space bullies. An accurate description, Gina agreed. The Gentar have never faced an opponent that fought back effectively. Every species they encounter either runs away or surrenders. Their entire tactical doctrine is based on intimidation. Day felt a cold smile form on his face. Bullies. He understood bullies. Earth was full of them throughout history. Nations that used fear to control others. The humans had learned how to deal with bullies. You hit them back hard. How many ships do they have? Day asked. 40 warships, sir. They are gathering near the Kepler system. Intelligence suggests they are planning a major raid on a Council mining colony. And how many ships do we have in range? Captain Tay checked his display. 8, sir. The rest of the fleet is scattered across the sector on patrol. 8 ships against 40. Any reasonable military commander would avoid such an engagement. The odds were terrible. The smart move was to retreat, gather reinforcements, and attack when the numbers were better. But Day was not thinking about odds. He was thinking about the mining colony, about the people who would die if the Gentar attacked, about the message it would send if humanity's first deep space fleet ran away from a fight. Navigator Sung, Day said calmly. Set course for Kepler system. Maximum speed. Sung turned around in his chair. Sir, we are outnumbered 5-1. I am aware of that. Set the course. Yes, sir. The human fleet changed direction and accelerated. Behind them, they left a trail of radiation that any sensor could detect. The Gentar would know they were coming. On the Gentar flagship, Commander Varal received the report with amusement. 8 small warships were approaching his fleet. He had 40 ships. This would be over quickly. Identify the vessels, Varal ordered. His tactical officer studied the sensor data. Unknown design, Commander. The emission signature does not match any species in our database. Interesting. Probably some new council patrol. Send a message. Tell them to turn around or be destroyed. The message was transmitted. The human fleet received it and continued on their course without responding. Varal laughed. They think we are bluffing. Prepare all weapons. We will destroy half their fleet on the first pass. The rest will run. But Captain Tay was analyzing the Gentar formation with careful attention. He had spent 20 years studying naval tactics on Earth. He understood how formations worked, how fleets moved, how commanders thought. Commander, Tay said, they are arranged for intimidation, not combat. Look at the spacing. They want to appear as a solid wall of ships, but there are gaps in their overlapping fields of fire. Day looked at the tactical display. Tay was right. The Gentar formation looked impressive, but it was inefficient. Ships were positioned to look threatening, not to support each other in actual combat. They have never fought anyone who pushed back, Day said. They do not know how to fight a real battle. What are your orders, sir? Day thought for a moment. On Earth, humans had fought countless battles against superior numbers. They had learned that numerical advantage meant nothing if you could not use it effectively. The key was to disrupt the enemy formation, create chaos, and exploit mistakes. We go straight at them, Day said. Full attack. Target their flagship first. Captain Tay grinned. Yes, sir. They will not expect that. No, they expect us to run. Bullies always expect their victims to run. The human fleet accelerated into attack formation. The 8 ships arranged themselves in a spearhead pattern, with the Indomitable at the tip. They aimed straight for the center of the Gentar fleet. Varal watched the human ships approach and felt confused. Why were they not retreating? Could they not count? Did they not understand they were outnumbered? All ships prepare to fire, Varal ordered. On my command. The distance closed. The Gentar ships charged their weapons. The humans continued their approach, accelerating to dangerous speeds. Fire! Varal shouted. The Gentar fleet opened fire with everything they had. Energy beams and missiles filled the space between the 2 fleets. The humans should have been overwhelmed, destroyed by the sheer volume of fire. Instead, something impossible happened. The human ships performed synchronized evasive maneuvers. They twisted and rolled, presenting different angles to the incoming fire. Their computers calculated trajectories faster than Gentar could aim. Most of the shots missed. The ESS Indomitable cruised through the darkness between stars. Commander Day stood on the bridge, his hands clasped behind his back as he watched the displays. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations. They had been in deep space for 2 weeks now, far from Earth and far from the Council fleet that waited for them. Day was a tall man with dark eyes and a calm expression that never seemed to change. He had spent 20 years in Earth's Navy before being chosen to command the first interstellar fleet. His crew trusted him completely. When he spoke, they listened. Status report, Day said quietly. Chief Engineer Hana looked up from her console. She was young but brilliant, the person responsible for the modifications that made human FTL drives work better than the stolen alien designs they were based on. All ships reporting normal operation, sir. The Predator just finished refueling from the tanker. We are ready to continue the mission. Good. Day turned to Navigator Sung. Any sign of Council ships? Sung shook his head. He was a former submarine operator who had adapted well to space navigation. Nothing on long-range sensors, sir. We are well outside their patrol routes. D nodded. The plan was working. The Council expected humans to stay near Earth, waiting nervously for first contact. Instead, the human fleet had scattered into frontier space, learning everything they could about the galaxy before anyone could stop them. Suddenly, an alarm sounded. Communication Officer Yuri sat up straight. Commander, I am picking up a distress signal. It is coming from a civilian vessel. They are under attack. Day walked over to her station. Can you identify the ship? Yuri's fingers moved across her controls. It is a Ryloth merchant vessel. They carry trade goods between systems. The attacking ships are not broadcasting identification codes. Pirates, Hana said from her station. The database says this sector has problems with raiders. Day was silent for a moment. The mission was to avoid contact with other species until Earth was ready. Getting involved in local conflicts was not part of the plan. But the distress signal kept repeating, a desperate call for help that grew weaker with each transmission. Captain Tay, Day said into the communication system. This is Fleet Command. We have a situation. Captain Tay's face appeared on the screen. He commanded the Indomitable and served as Day's second in command. I see it, sir. The merchant ship will not last long. I count 12 pirate vessels. Our orders are to avoid contact, Dee said. Yes, sir. Tay paused. But if we let them die when we could help? Day understood. The first thing humans learned on Earth was that strength meant nothing if you did not use it to protect others. Their entire society was built on that idea. Millions of years ago, humans had formed packs and tribes because working together kept them alive. That instinct was still there. We do not ignore people in trouble, Day said finally. Contact Captain Wu on the Predator. Tell him to prepare for combat. Yes, sir. Tay smiled. It will be done. The ESS Predator was a destroyer, smaller and faster than the Indomitable. Captain Wu commanded it with aggressive efficiency. When he received his orders, he immediately changed course toward the distress signal. All crew to battle stations, Wu announced over the ship's speakers. Prepare for high-G maneuvers. Lock down everything that can move. The crew rushed to their positions. They strapped into their seats and secured their equipment. Medical Officer Yuri made sure the emergency supplies were ready. Everyone knew what was coming. The Predator appeared on the pirates' sensors just as they were boarding the merchant vessel. The pirate commander looked at the display and laughed. One small warship against 12 of his raiders? This would be easy prey. All ships, new target, the pirate commander ordered. Destroy that warship, then we finish the merchant. The pirate fleet turned and accelerated toward the Predator. They expected the human ship to run. Every other species did when they were outnumbered. The Predator did not run. It accelerated straight at them. Target locked, Lieutenant Hyun reported from the weapons station. Firing solution ready. Not yet, Wu said calmly. Let them get closer. The pirates opened fire at maximum range. Energy beams and missiles flew toward the Predator. Most missed. A few hit the shields and were absorbed. They are not very accurate, Hyun observed. They are used to fighting scared merchants, Wu replied. Not warships. Wait for it. The distance closed rapidly. The pirates kept firing, but their shots were wild. They were trying to intimidate the human ship into retreating. Now, Wu said. Execute combat burn. 15 Gs, the Predator's engines roared to full power. The acceleration slammed everyone back into their seats with crushing force. 15 times Earth's gravity pressed down on every human on the ship. It felt like an elephant sitting on their chests. Breathing was hard. Moving was nearly impossible. But the humans had evolved under Earth's gravity, which was already stronger than most species could handle. Their bones were dense. Their hearts were powerful. Their bodies were built to survive extreme conditions. 15 Gs was painful, but they could endure it. The pirates could not. Their ships were designed for comfort. Rapid acceleration made them dizzy and sick. Their bodies were not made for such stress. The Predator shot through the pirate formation like a bullet. Its weapons fired continuously as it passed. Railguns launched metal slugs at incredible speeds. Missiles locked onto confused targets and detonated. In 10 seconds, the Predator destroyed 4 pirate ships and damaged 3 more. Then it flipped around and came back for another pass. The pirate commander stared at his screen in shock. What kind of ship could maneuver like that? What kind of crew could survive such acceleration? All ships retreat! He screamed. Get out of here! But the Predator was not alone. The Indomitable had arrived with 2 more destroyers. The human fleet surrounded the pirates and cut off their escape routes. Attention, pirate vessels. Commander Day's voice broadcast on all frequencies. You have attacked a civilian ship in our presence. Surrender immediately or be destroyed. 5 pirate ships tried to run. The human destroyers chased them down and disabled their engines with precise weapons fire. The remaining 3 ships surrendered. The merchant vessel was badly damaged but still intact. Captain Tay sent rescue teams to help the Ryloth crew. Medical Officer Yuri went with them, carrying medical supplies. When Yuri entered the merchant ship, she found the Ryloth captain lying on the floor, injured but alive. The captain was a small being with blue skin and large eyes. She looked at Yuri in confusion. You are from the Death World? the Ryloth captain whispered. Yuri knelt down and began treating the captain's wounds. I am from Earth, yes. Hold still. This might hurt a little. Why did you help us? We are not your people. Yuri looked surprised by the question. You needed help. That is enough. The Ryloth captain watched as Yuri worked. The human moved with confident efficiency, her hands steady and sure. The captain had heard stories about Deathworlders. They were supposed to be violent and dangerous. But this human was gentle with her patients. Your world, the captain said. Is it truly as terrible as they say? Yuri laughed. Earth? It is beautiful. Yes, we have storms and earthquakes. We have predators and diseases. But it is home. We do not think of it as terrible. It is just normal. The captain tried to imagine a world where earthquakes and predators were normal. She could not. Her own planet was peaceful and safe. The idea of living somewhere dangerous seemed insane. But looking at this human, the captain understood something. Deathworlds created strong people, people who were not afraid of danger, people who could help others even in the middle of a crisis. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Commander Day reviewed the battle reports. The engagement had lasted less than 15 minutes. No human casualties. All pirate ships captured or destroyed. The merchant vessel was saved. Sir, Hana said from her station, I am picking up transmissions. The pirates sent out a distress call before we destroyed their communications. Others will know about this. Let them know, Day said. The galaxy needs to understand something. Humans do not ignore calls for help, and we do not lose fights. Captain Tay appeared on the communication screen. Commander, the Ryloth captain wants to thank you personally. She is asking how we were able to defeat so many ships so easily. Day thought about that question. How could he explain that humans had spent millions of years being hunted by predators, that they had learned to hunt in return, that every human carried the instincts of their ancestors, the ones who survived when others did not? Tell her, Day said finally, that we come from a world where everything wants to kill you. You learn to fight back or you die. It is that simple. News of the battle spread quickly through the frontier. Merchants and traders heard that a human warship had destroyed a pirate fleet. The council received the reports with growing concern. Admiral Kale stood in his command center on Nexus Prime Station, reading the intelligence reports. The humans were not hiding near Earth. They were out there in the galaxy, already making their presence known, and they had won their first battle with embarrassing ease. Kale called up the tactical data from the engagement. He watched the predators' attack run again and again. The maneuver was impossible for most species. The acceleration would kill them. For the first time, Kale felt a touch of doubt. They had survived all of it through cooperation and stubborn refusal to give up. This would be no different. In space, the Council fleet departed from Nexus. The Galactic Council chamber erupted in chaos. Hundreds of delegates shouted at once, their voices mixing into a wall of noise. Ambassador Thelmora tried to restore order, but no one was listening. Everyone had seen the recordings from Earth. Everyone understood what it meant. The humans had mobilized for war. Councillor Vexara finally managed to be heard over the noise. His crystalline body glowed red with anger. This is exactly what I warned you about. The Deathworlders are preparing to attack us. We must strike first before they leave their system. They are defending their home, another councillor argued. We sent a fleet to intimidate them. What did you expect them to do? They were supposed to surrender. Vexara shouted. Every other species understands that resistance against the Council is futile. But these humans, these predators, they want to fight. Ambassador Thelmora called for silence. It took several minutes, but eventually the chamber quieted down. She looked tired and worried. We need to hear from Admiral Kale, she said. He is at Earth now. He can give us a direct report. The holographic display activated. Admiral Kale's face appeared, larger than life in the center of the chamber. He looked older than the last time they saw him. His 4 eyes were troubled. Council members, Kyle began, I am transmitting from the edge of the Sol system. My fleet is holding position at a safe distance from Earth. A safe distance? Vexara asked mockingly. You have 50 warships. What do you need a safe distance for? Kale's expression darkened. Because the humans have 200 ships, and I believe they are all armed. Silence fell over the chamber. 200 ships? That was impossible. Earth had 8 warships 2 weeks ago. How could they have built so many vessels so quickly? They did not build them. Kyle explained, reading their confusion. They converted civilian ships. Transports, mining vessels, research stations, everything they had in space now carries weapons. Improvised weapons, Vexara said dismissively. Civilian ships with civilian crews. Your fleet could destroy them easily. Perhaps, Kale said, but I do not think so. I have been studying human history while we traveled here. The council files do not show the complete picture, so I accessed the classified archives. He pulled up images on the display. They showed Earth's military history, battles, weapons, tactics. The delegates watched in growing horror. Humans have been fighting wars for 10,000 years, Kale continued. They have perfected the art of violence in ways we cannot imagine. They have written hundreds of books analyzing warfare. They teach military strategy to their children through games. Every human knows basic combat tactics before they become adults. But they are primitive, someone protested weakly. Their technology is primitive, Kale corrected. Their understanding of war is advanced beyond anything we have encountered. Look at this. He showed recordings from the Battle of Kepler's Edge. The council members had seen them before, but Kale highlighted specific moments. The coordinated attacks, the precise targeting, the willingness to take damage in order to deliver damage. This is called the Predator Doctrine, Kale explained. It is based on millions of years of evolutionary hunting behavior. Humans do not fight to intimidate. They fight to win. They do not retreat when outnumbered. They adapt and overcome. He pulled up another image. It showed a human warship that had been heavily damaged in the battle. Half of its hull was destroyed. Life support was failing. By all logic, the crew should have abandoned ship. Instead, they had repaired the weapons and continued fighting. This is what we are facing, Kale said quietly. A species that refuses to quit. A species that sees impossible odds as a challenge, not a deterrent. A species that evolved on a planet that tried to kill them every day, and they survived anyway. The chamber was completely silent now. Every delegate understood what Kale was saying. The humans were not like other species. They could not be intimidated. They could not be reasoned with through shows of force. They were predators. And predators did not back down. Ambassador Thelmora spoke carefully. Admiral Kale, what is your recommendation? Kale was quiet for a long moment. Then he said something that shocked everyone. I recommend we negotiate. We offer the humans a treaty. Limited access to council space. Monitored exploration rights. A path to eventual full membership if they prove themselves peaceful. Peaceful? Vexara laughed harshly. They just mobilized their entire civilization for war. They have 200 armed ships. And you want to negotiate with them? Yes, Kyle said firmly. Because if we attack them, we will win. But the cost will be tremendous. My fleet analysis suggests we would lose at least half our ships. Thousands of council personnel would die. And for what? To punish a species for defending their home? They are dangerous, another counselor said. You just spent 20 minutes explaining how dangerous they are. And now you want to let them into council space? I want to make allies of them, Kale replied. Because I have also studied their history of alliances. When humans decide someone is their friend, they protect that friend with the same intensity they fight their enemies. They call it loyalty, and they value it above almost everything else. He pulled up more images. These showed human soldiers helping refugees, human doctors treating wounded enemies, human ships rescuing civilians from disasters. Humans are predators, Kyle said, but they are also pack animals. They form bonds with others. They help the weak. They risk their lives for strangers. If we make them our enemies, they will be the most dangerous enemies we have ever faced. But if we make them our allies, they could be our greatest protectors. The argument went on for hours. Some counselors agreed with Kale. Others wanted to attack Earth immediately. The debate grew heated. Finally, Counselor Vexara called for a vote. We must decide now. Do we negotiate with the humans, or do we eliminate the threat before it grows larger? The vote was close. Very close. In the end, the decision was made by a margin of only 30 votes. The council would not negotiate. They would attack, but they would not send 50 ships. They would send 300. The extinction fleet, held in reserve for the most dangerous threats. Every available warship would be called to Earth. The humans would be given one chance to surrender completely and accept permanent quarantine. If they refused, Earth would be sterilized. Every human in space would be destroyed. The species would end. Ambassador Thelmora delivered the decision to Admiral Kale. She could see the disappointment in his eyes, but he acknowledged his orders. He would hold position at Earth until the extinction fleet arrived. Then he would deliver the final ultimatum. On Earth, Commander Day received intelligence about the Council's decision. A sympathetic alien trader had intercepted communications and sent a warning. 300 warships were coming. Earth had 2 weeks to prepare. Day called an emergency meeting with Earth's government leaders. They gathered in a secure bunker deep underground, their faces projected on screens around the conference table. 300 ships, the Secretary General said quietly. We cannot win against those numbers. No, Day agreed. We cannot win a direct battle. But we do not need to win. We need to survive. Explain, the defense minister requested. Day pulled up a tactical display. The Council expects us to meet them in space. A fleet action where their superior numbers will destroy us. We will not do that. Instead, we will fight a defensive battle. We will use Earth's gravity well, the moon, the asteroid belt. We will make them come to us on ground we choose. Guerrilla warfare, the defense minister said, understanding. Like the old wars. Exactly. We cannot match their firepower, but we can make the cost of attacking us so high that they question whether it is worth it. And if they decide it is worth it? Someone asked. If they are willing to pay any price to destroy us? Day looked at each face on the screens. Then we die. But we die fighting. And we make sure the galaxy remembers that humans do not surrender. The government leaders looked at each other. They were frightened. Anyone would be. But they were also determined. Earth had survived ice ages, asteroid impacts, plagues that killed billions. Humanity had faced extinction dozens of times in their history. They always survived. Very well, the Secretary General said. You have full authority to prepare the defense. Use whatever resources you need. Conscript whatever personnel you require. Earth will stand united. Day saluted and ended the call. Then he turned to his senior officers who had been waiting outside the conference room. Captain Tay, Captain Wu, Chief Engineer Hana, Intelligence Officer Gina, and dozens of others. You all heard the news, Day said. 300 ships. The largest fleet ever assembled against a single planet. They are coming to destroy us. He looked at each of them. Young and old. Men and women. Engineers and soldiers. All of them ready to fight. We have 2 weeks, Day continued. 2 weeks to prepare the greatest defense in human history. We will use every tactic we know. Every trick we have learned. We will turn Earth's entire orbital space into a fortress. What if it is not enough? Captain Wu asked. Then it is not enough, Day replied. But we will show the galaxy something important. We will show them that humans do not fear death. We fear insignificance. We fear being forgotten.